In the quiet American town of Maplewood, a dead body washes up under a rainy bridge. The victim, Ethan Clarke. The prime suspect, his ex, a quiet librarian named Jessica Hill. She says she didn't even know he was in town, but the police find messages, a meeting note, witnesses, all pointing to her. Her friends doubt her. The town turns against her. Even the law starts closing in. But Jessica refuses to be the victim of someone else's story. She digs, she fights, and uncovers a darker truth. Ethan wasn't killed for love. He was silenced for secrets. And the real killer is still out there. Jessica Hill was framed for murder. But now, she's coming for justice. The rain had already washed most of the blood away. Deputy Mark Collins stood near the edge of Miller's Creek Bridge, staring down at the pale hand tangled between the reeds. The early morning fog wrapped itself around the water like a shroud, hiding the rest of the corpse beneath its silent veil. He swallowed hard before speaking into his radio. "Dispatch. We've got a body." Maplewood was not the kind of town where you found corpses floating in rivers. At least, not until today. The call came in at 6:12 a.m. Jessica Hill was still getting ready for work at the town library when her phone buzzed with an emergency alert from the Maplewood Police Department. Road closure. Miller's Creek Bridge blocked due to ongoing investigation. Stay clear of the area. Jessica barely read it. She tossed her phone on the bed, pulled her brown hair into a messy ponytail, and reached for her car keys. Just another Tuesday. She didn't know that by sunset, her name would be whispered in every household. Not as Jessica the librarian, but as Jessica Hill, the prime suspect. Jessica reached Main Street, noticing a cluster of police cars ahead. Yellow crime scene tape fluttered in the wind. Curious residents stood nearby, whispering nervously. She rolled her window down and called out to an older woman holding an umbrella. "Mrs. Dwyer, what's going on?" The old woman leaned closer, eyes wide with fear. "Someone found a dead body by the bridge. They say it's a man." Jessica froze. A chill ran down her arms. "A man? Who?" But before Mrs. Dwyer could answer, a familiar voice called out, "Jessica." She turned to see Officer Daniel Brooks walking toward her. His uniform was damp from the rain, hair plastered against his forehead. He was one of the few people in town Jessica actually trusted. They'd gone to school together once. "Danny, what happened?" she asked. He hesitated, then sighed. "Listen, you should go home. They'll release details soon." Her heartbeat quickened. "Do they know who it is?" Daniel's eyes shifted away. "Not officially, but bang!" A car door slammed nearby, drawing everyone's attention. Sheriff Douglas, a gruff, broad-shouldered man in his 50s, stepped forward. "Everyone clear the area. This is an active crime scene." Daniel gave Jessica one last look. "Please, Jess, just stay out of this." He walked away, leaving her with more questions than answers. But Jessica didn't go home. She parked a block away and walked quietly along the tree line toward the bridge. She wasn't a detective, but something inside her refused to turn away. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the strange, sinking feeling that this wasn't just any murder. From behind a cluster of trees, she saw them pulling the body from the water. It was a man in his 30s, face bruised, shirt torn. A deep gash ran across his forehead, and his hands were scratched as if he had fought for his life. Jessica's breath caught in her throat. She knew that face. Oh my God. It was Ethan Clarke, a name she had hoped never to hear again. The man she once loved, the man she once feared. 5 years ago, Ethan had walked out of her life after breaking her heart and nearly breaking her spirit. Controlling, manipulative, charming to others, cruel behind closed doors. She had escaped him, changed her number, moved towns. So why was he here? In Maplewood? And who had killed him? Jessica stumbled back, panic rising. She turned to leave, only to bump straight into someone. "Whoa, Jessica?" Daniel stood there again, eyes wide. "What are you doing here?" he asked sharply. Before she could answer, Sheriff Douglas approached. He looked at her with a strange intensity. "You know the victim?" Jessica hesitated. "Yes. His name is Ethan Clarke. He was someone from my past." The sheriff narrowed his eyes. "How long has he been in Maplewood?" I don't know," she stammered. "I didn't even know he was here." Sheriff Douglas folded his arms. "Funny thing is, someone saw a woman matching your description arguing with him last night near Baker's Diner." Jessica's eyes widened. "What? That's not possible. I was home all night." "Can anyone confirm that?" Her silence was the only answer. The sheriff gave a slow, cold nod. "Jessica Hill, I'm going to need you to come with us for questioning." The crowd watching from afar had already seen enough. Murmurs rippled through the air like wildfire. "That's her? The librarian?" She knew the dead guy. "They're taking her in." Jessica felt her world close in as Daniel placed a gentle but firm hand on her shoulder. "I'm sorry," he whispered. She stared numbly at the corpse of Ethan Clarke being covered with a black sheet. Just this morning, she was an ordinary woman. Now, she was a murder suspect. The walls of the Maplewood police station felt colder than Jessica remembered. She sat alone in the small interrogation room, hands clasped tightly together, the metallic chair beneath her trembling slightly as she shifted. A camera blinked silently from the corner. A one-way mirror loomed across from her, hiding the eyes she knew were watching. Her reflection in the glass looked back at her, wet hair clinging to her forehead, cheeks pale, eyes red from shock. "How did I get here?" The door opened. Sheriff Douglas walked in, followed by Detective Laura Kane, a stern-faced woman in her 40s with sharp eyes that missed nothing. They placed a file on the metal table. "Jessica Hill." The sheriff spoke slowly, taking his seat. "Age 27, works at Maplewood Public Library, no criminal record. Quiet, friendly, known to keep to herself." Detective Kane opened the file and slid a photograph across the table. It was Ethan's body, pale, soaked, lifeless. "Tell us again," she said, her voice flat. "When was the last time you saw him?" Jessica swallowed. 5 years ago. Before today, I had no idea he was even in town." Detective Kane leaned forward. "Witness says otherwise." Jessica stiffened. "What witness?" The detective ignored her question. "According to a waitress at Baker's Diner, she saw you and Ethan arguing last night around 9 p.m. "That's impossible," Jessica protested. "I was home all night." Sheriff Douglas folded his arms. "You live alone, Ms. Hill. No one can verify that." Jessica's breathing grew shallow. Panic crawled up her spine. "I didn't kill him." Detective Kane didn't blink. "Then why did he come here?" "I don't know." The room fell silent, her voice echoing off the walls. The detective exchanged a look with the sheriff, quiet, unreadable. Then she calmly slid another photograph toward Jessica. This time it was a note, a torn notebook page with shaky handwriting. "I need to see you. Tonight. At the bridge." Jessica's blood ran cold. Sheriff Douglas spoke slowly. "This note was found in Ethan Clarke's pocket, with your initials on the back." She grabbed the paper with trembling fingers, and sure enough, JH written in neat ink. Her ink. I didn't write this," she whispered. Detective Kane raised an eyebrow. "We compared the handwriting with your library sign-in sheets. It's a match." No, someone's setting me up." The sheriff leaned back. "If someone wanted to frame you, Ms. Hill, why? What motive would they have?" Jessica stared down at the note. Her mind raced through every possibility. Was someone watching me? Did Ethan come here to blackmail me? Or was someone trying to make sure my past destroyed me again? She barely noticed the door opening again. Deputy Daniel Brooks stepped in, holding 2 cups of coffee. He placed one in front of her gently. She looked at him, searching for even a hint of belief. "Daniel, please, You know me." His expression softened, but only for a moment. "I want to believe you, Jess." His voice was quiet. "But it doesn't look good." He placed a brown envelope on the table. We checked Ethan's phone. Detective Kane opened it, revealing printed screenshots, text messages from an unknown number to Ethan. "We need to talk. Meet me at the bridge or I'll tell them everything." "You owe me." Detective Kane slid them toward her. These messages came from a prepaid burner phone purchased yesterday from the convenience store near your house. Jessica's heart stopped. She had been there yesterday to buy groceries and coffee filters. She remembered standing in line behind someone buying lottery tickets and a prepaid phone. "Oh God." The detective's voice hardened. "You had motive. You had history with the victim. You had the opportunity. And now, we have evidence of prior contact." The sheriff closed the file. "Jessica Hill, until further notice, you are the prime suspect in the murder of Ethan Clarke." They didn't handcuff her, but they didn't let her go either. They took her phone. They searched her belongings. They photographed her hands, her neck, her clothes. Jessica felt like she was floating above her own body, watching someone else's nightmare. Finally, hours later, Daniel walked her out of the room. "You're free to go, for now," he said quietly. She looked at him, eyes hollow. "Everyone will think I did it." He hesitated, then said nothing. When Jessica stepped outside, the sun was already setting. But Maplewood wasn't calm. People stood outside the station, whispering, watching. She heard it as she walked past. "That's her. Killed her ex, they say. She looks innocent, but you never know." Jessica kept walking. Faster. Then someone shouted, "Murderer!" A soda can flew past her, hitting the ground near her feet. She froze. Her hands clenched. Tears blurred her vision, but rage burned hotter. If they wanted a villain, they had chosen the wrong woman. Back at home, she locked the door and leaned against it, shaking. Her phone was gone, her reputation was gone, her peace was gone, but her mind was awake, sharper than ever. She walked to her desk, pulled out a notebook and wrote on the first page, "Ethan Clarke was murdered. They think I killed him. I didn't. So I'm going to find out who did." Her pen stopped. She added one more line, "Before they destroy me." Jessica had never felt her home so hostile before. Every creak of the floorboards, every shadow stretching across the walls seemed like an accusation. Outside, the town of Maplewood had already decided her fate. She was guilty in their eyes, and whispers trailed her everywhere. But she knew one thing. If she didn't find the truth, no one else would. She started with Ethan. Why had he come to Maplewood? Why reach out to her after 5 years? And who wanted him dead badly enough to make it look like she was the killer? Jessica went back to the note the sheriff had shown her. The paper had been folded neatly, but she noticed something the police had missed, a faint watermark in the corner. Not the kind you saw on library stationery. This was from a motel receipt. Her pulse quickened. The Maplewood Inn was the kind of place people stayed when they didn't want to be seen. The manager, an overweight man with half-moon glasses, barely looked up when Jessica entered the lobby. "Checking in?" he asked, bored. "No," Jessica said, forcing confidence into her trembling voice. "I'm looking for someone who stayed here. Ethan Clarke." The manager's eyes flicked up at the name. "Room 6, paid cash, left in a hurry yesterday." "Did he meet anyone here?" The man hesitated. "Look, I don't like trouble." Jessica slid a folded 20 across the counter. The manager sighed. "Yeah, he had a visitor. Some guy in a black jacket, out-of-towner, rough type. They argued. Loud. I almost called the cops." Her stomach knotted. So Ethan wasn't just here for her. He was already in danger. "Did you catch a name?" The manager nodded slowly. "Check the register." He signed in as Mason Reed. Jessica scribbled it down. She had never heard of him. Back home, Jessica couldn't sit still. The fear of arrest, of trial, of spending her life in prison for a crime she didn't commit. It drove her harder. She returned to the motel, waited until dusk, and slipped into room 6. The smell hit her first. Cheap cologne, cigarette smoke, damp carpet. Ethan's duffel bag lay tossed against the wall. She rifled through it, her hands shaking. Inside, she found a burner phone, several envelopes stuffed with cash, and a folded photograph. Her throat went dry when she unfolded it. It showed Ethan, standing with Mason Reed, both men in front of a black SUV. In the trunk, boxes stacked high, and on the side of one box, a faded cartel stamp. Drugs, smuggling. Ethan hadn't come back for her. He'd come because his past was catching up to him. The realization hit Jessica like ice water. Someone killed Ethan to tie up loose ends, and they were using me as the scapegoat. She didn't have time to plan. That night, as she walked home through Maplewood's quiet streets, a shadow detached itself from the alley. A man stepped out, tall, black jacket, scar across his cheek. "Mason Reed," Jessica whispered. He smiled without warmth. "You've been busy." Her heart hammered. "You killed him." He was sloppy, talking too much, and then he was going to drag you into it. Convenient for me. Make it look like a lover's quarrel, pin it on the girl. Nobody asks questions. Jessica's knees weakened, but her voice hardened. "The police already suspect me. Why not let them do their job?" Mason shrugged. "Sheriff's easy to handle. Small towns are blind. But you..." He stepped closer, knife glinting in his hand. "You weren't supposed to start digging." Adrenaline surged. Jessica backed away, but her foot hit the curb. Mason lunged. She swung her bag, slamming it into his wrist. The knife clattered to the ground. He roared, grabbing her by the arm. She twisted, nails raking his face, and broke free for a split second. Screaming, she bolted down Main Street. Lights flickered on in houses. Dogs barked. Mason chased her like a predator. She ran toward the one place she knew she'd find help, the police station. She burst through the front doors, Mason a step behind. Officers leapt to their feet. Sheriff Douglas drew his weapon. "Drop it," he barked. Mason froze, breath ragged, knife now back in his hand. His eyes flicked around the room, calculating. But before he could move, Daniel Brooks tackled him to the floor. The knife skidded across the tiles. Mason roared, thrashing, until 3 officers held him down. Jessica stood shaking, her lungs burning, pointing at him. "He killed Ethan Clarke. He tried to frame me." The interrogation this time was short. Mason Reed was no stranger to law enforcement, a known enforcer for a drug trafficking ring, already wanted in several states. Ethan had apparently stolen money from the cartel and tried to hide in Maplewood. Mason had followed, silencing him permanently. The note in Ethan's pocket, a forgery. The texts, sent from the burner Mason bought, not Jessica. Every piece of evidence carefully planted. By dawn, Mason Reed was in custody, and Jessica Hill was free. It took weeks for Maplewood to quiet down. Whispers still followed Jessica, but now they carried a different tone. Shame, regret, apology. Daniel visited her often, sometimes bringing flowers from his mother's garden. "I'm sorry we doubted you," he told her one evening. "You saved yourself, and you saved this town." Jessica only nodded. She was tired of explaining, tired of reliving it. But that night, as she sat alone at her kitchen table, she opened her notebook again. On the first page, she had written, "Ethan Clarke was murdered. They think I killed him. I didn't." Now she added a final line. "The truth nearly drowned me, but I survived. And I'll never let anyone write my story again." She closed the book, exhaled deeply, and let the silence of Maplewood wash over her. For the first time in weeks, she felt free. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.